Sziasztok! Ebben a mai videóban is Kanadáról lesz szó, méghozzá a kanadai ingatlanpiacról. Tudom, hogy ez egy nagyon izgalmas téma, és Kanadán kívül is biztos híre ment már annak, hogy mennyire drága az ingatlan Kanadában, tehát hogy mennyire, úgy mondjuk itt, hogy hat, tehát hogy mennyire pörög az ingatlanpiac. Ez egyébként nem csak Kanadára igaz, de most erről lesz szó, méghozzá Kanadán belül Ontario tartomány ingatlanpiaci állapotáról, és ahhoz, hogy erről ne én beszéljek, hanem valaki, aki igazán ért is hozzá, ezért vendégül hívtam ma Nicholas Crouchot, aki egy real estate broker itt Ottawában, ahol mi is élünk, és ő segített nekünk abban, hogy megtaláljuk a házunkat. Tehát ővele fogok ma beszélgetni, és izgalmas kérdéseket és témákat fogunk boncolgatni az ingatlanpiac jelenéről, múltjáról és talán egy picit a jövőjéről is, itt Ontárióban, és ezen belül Ottawában, ami ugye az ország fővárosa, Kanada fővárosa, és a jelen pillanatban az egyik legjobban pörgő ingatlanpiac itt Kanadán belül. Igazából minden nagyvárosban nagyon pörög az ingatlanpiac, de amire ma fókuszálni fogunk, az az ottawai és az ontariói ingatlanpiac. Tehát, hogyha titeket is izgat ez a téma, és ti szeretnétek egy kicsit hallani arról, hogy hogy is működik itt a házadásvétel, lakásadásvétel, akkor mindenképpen maradjatok velünk, mert nagyon sok érdekes részletet és információt fogtok hallani. Ha tetszenek a videók, akkor ne felejtsétek el lájkolni, és iratkozzatok fel a csatornára, ha még nem tettétek, mert rendszeresen töltök fel videókat, és hogyha nem szeretnétek ezekről lemaradni, akkor annak a legjobb módja az, hogyha megnyomjátok azt a feliratkozó gombot. Tehát akkor további mellébeszélés nélkül lássuk a beszélgetést Nicholas Crouch-al, akinek az elérhetőségét megtaláljátok az infoboxban, illetve hozzám is fordulhattok bátran az ezt illető kérdéseitekkel. Hey Nick, can you just tell us about yourself a little bit and how long you've been working here as a real estate agent in Ottawa?
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing real estate sales for almost 6 years, but I've been in the real estate industry for almost 10. So I kind of dipped my feet into real estate, starting with commercial, industrial and commercial property management with my dad. And my dad owns a commercial real estate brokerage here in Ottawa, and he's been doing that for about the better part of almost 40 years. So I don't say that I grew up in it, but you know, I was around it my entire life. So in a different life, actually before I moved to Budapest, I was working in finance. So I had the opportunity to decide if I wanted to go the finance route or if I wanted to go the real estate route. It turns out that, you know, as nice as a 9 to 5 is, I enjoy the freedom of being a real estate agent. So when I came back from living in Hungary, I decided to pursue real estate as a full-time job.
Okay. Have you always lived in Ottawa?
No, I haven't always lived in Ottawa. I did spend some time living in Budapest, attending the Balási Intézet program. And it's basically a program for, and I'm sure most of your Hungarian viewers have probably heard of it at some point, but it's basically a program for the children of expats to go back to Hungary and learn the language. So it was a little bit of a strange experience. But all that to say, living there was fantastic because it was an opportunity for me to get in touch with my Hungarian side of the family. So my dad's from Hungary, my mom's French Canadian. So I grew up predominantly around my mother's side of the family, not necessarily knowing everyone in my dad's extended Hungarian family. So when I went there, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of family members that I'd never met before, meet a lot of my friends' family members as well. And, you know, Hungarians are extremely accommodating and welcoming to friends and family. So it was a great time. It was a great time. But unfortunately, when I moved back, I didn't really have anyone to speak Hungarian with too. So I have to apologize to all your Hungarian viewers that my Hungarian, I'd be doing myself a disservice if I tried to speak Hungarian again, especially about real estate. But I do miss it very much. And I usually go back every year. Obviously with COVID, I wasn't able to do that, but I have every intention of going back this summer.
Okay. So you actually speak 3 languages?
Yeah. So I speak French was my first language. So
Yeah.
I'm extremely fluent in French, English, obviously, and then Hungarian. I don't know if I would say I'm completely fluent. But I know enough to get myself in trouble, at least right now. But when I go back to Hungary, it only takes me maybe a couple of weeks to slowly get back in the rhythm of things.
Nick, so I did mention it in the intro that we moved to Ottawa from Toronto,
Yep.
and we've been here actually almost exactly for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We bought our house last summer with your help, and we're very happy that we did. And so, how has the market changed in your experience? Like just the basics in the past 5 years. It's really, really hot market. So
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you were to go back, 5 years, I think where we started seeing, as I'm sure most people who are watching this, or maybe they don't know, Ottawa's been in what's known as a seller's market for quite some time. So what that means is that when we're in a seller's market, it's when there's not enough supply in housing to meet the demand. Where we really saw that sort of take off, for as long as I've been in real estate sales, it was always a little bit skewed toward a seller's market. But where it really took off was about a handful of years ago. I wouldn't be able to give you the exact date off the top of my head, but the Bank of Canada introduced the mortgage stress test. So essentially what ended up happening was that people who could qualify at a certain price point now had to qualify at a higher interest rate. So what that essentially did, to make it very simple, is that it brought people down in purchasing power. So if they were able to afford maybe 500,000 after they introduced the stress test, it went down to 400,000, and just kind of went all the way down the price points. So when that happened, at the time, there was a lot of inventory in regards to condos. So as soon as that stress test was introduced, we saw all of the condos just basically get snatched up right away. From there, because there isn't really a lot of brand new developments in regards to condos, which is predominantly a cheaper type of market segment for people to buy. So there wasn't any inventory. And that's basically when we saw this whole thing kind of start getting a little bit out of hand. Now, if you were to go back to a year ago before COVID, we were already in the throes of a very heavy seller's market. I remember multiple times during the winter last year where homes were selling 100, 120, maybe 150,000 over asking with dozens of offers. Now, that's basically the norm. But the reason why it's gotten even worse over the past year is because if you factor in a seller's market where there's usually never any inventory anyway, coupled with a global pandemic where most people don't necessarily want to open their homes for people to view, the people who otherwise would have sold are not selling for that particular reason. So there's even less inventory on top of the seller's market, but there's even way more demand when it comes to housing. You have that. Plus, there was a couple of things that were introduced both on the municipal level as well as the provincial level from the governments that weren't necessarily helping cities that were in these sorts of situations. For example, in Ottawa, we weren't able to break ground on new housing developments. So there's plenty of developers in the city. What they could do was that they could finish building out the projects that they already had, but they couldn't go and buy a piece of land and start doing it over again. They had to deal with the inventory that they had now. Now, off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to tell you if that's changed or not, but with the new builds, which have predominantly been cheap for people to do, especially if they had time on their hands, if they could wait a year, 2 years for the property to be built, it was a no-brainer. And I think I even said that to you and your husband as well when you guys started looking. It was really a no-brainer because it was just that much cheaper than being on the resale market. But now, a lot of developers, and especially even this past week, have moved to doing auctions for the lots that they're releasing. And you have to keep in mind when they release a lot, which is basically one property, they're only releasing maybe a handful at a time. And there's hundreds, if not thousands of people that are looking to purchase a property. So this is already inflating the prices for the pre-construction, and the resale market is basically behind it, but slowly catching up. So all that to say, I mean, over the last 5 years, we've seen it steadily increase to a seller's market, but within the last year and a half, 2 years, it's basically at a fever pitch, so to say. It's crazy out there.
Okay. And where are the buyers coming from?
Well, I can only speak for myself because I don't have access to all of that information. But my experience has been predominantly people who are in larger cities, so Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and some people from the States too, who are cashing out of even hotter real estate markets, and then they'll sell a detached property for a couple million, and then they'll come to Ottawa where, to them it's still cheap, and then they'll buy properties here. But I would say I have a pretty healthy mix of what I like to call transplant buyers from other cities in Canada, coupled with, younger professionals. And I'd say that mix is about 50-50 for me right now.
Okay. And yeah, just as us, we came from...
Exactly. It's the perfect example. When
we moved in, I think the day of, one of the neighbors heard that we came from Toronto, and they almost hugged us. They couldn't because of COVID, but they were saying, yeah, okay, there's some other people coming.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's a lot of people that have been coming to Ottawa, and for a long time, even if you were to ask, most real estate agents, I think it's a pretty there's a pretty even consensus across the board that the Ottawa real estate market was, for all intents and purposes, undervalued for a very long time. Now, would I necessarily agree that it should be as expensive as it is? That's maybe a conversation for another day, but it's definitely been undervalued. In the span of 3 years, you would see a semi-detached property or a townhome, 3 beds, 2 bath, pretty generic, but ultimately a very desirable housing goal for most people, go from 350,000 all the way up to north of 600,000, and that's in the span of just a couple of years.
Yeah.
So the prices have just shot up astronomically. So I don't see that continuing for that much longer, but it's definitely it's definitely gone up a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when we were still in Toronto. That was quite a few years ago, and we first started thinking about buying property, just in general. And Nitin mentioned Ottawa. It was just like, this vague thought that, but Toronto. And then you slowly realize that, well, there are other factors that you have to take into account.
Absolutely. I mean, it's tough for people across the board. And, unless you're, like I was saying, a transplant buyer coming in flush with cash from another market, it's tough for people who already own in Ottawa to trade up and get a bigger property, because if you sell your home, sure, you may have bought it for, a couple $100,000, and you got $600,000 for it. You're thinking that's fantastic. We have all this money, but with all that money, you're not going to buy yourself anything else more than what you already had. So it's tough for people to stay in the city and upgrade their properties. So we're seeing a lot of people, at least who are from Ottawa originally, are kind of expanding outwards to the surrounding areas if they want to upgrade their properties, that is.
I read that now with COVID, more and more people are moving to the suburbs for many reasons. One of them being that they don't need to commute, or temporarily don't need to commute, and they have a family. They realize that it's nicer to be in the suburbs, and that there is no obligation to commute an hour and a half every day. Then why not? So I'm guessing you see that happening too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when this whole thing started, I would say probably the first maybe 5 to 6 months into COVID being a thing, we saw a lot of people who had heard from their employers, hey, you know what? We're either shutting down our offices indefinitely and everyone's going to be working from home, or you're going to be working from home for the next year or two. And then after that, they're going to slowly phase in, you know, a couple days in the office, a couple days at home. So what we saw when that happened was that basically across the board, the cottage sector, you know, a lot of people said, you know what, if I don't have to be in the city, I'm going to go further out. And that was already a cheap market segment to begin with. So we saw the cottage country essentially had a boom because everyone wanted to buy one. But then if you go further out as well, you know, from, I mean, boy, you could pick basically any place within an hour and a half of downtown Ottawa, and everyone kind of just fanned out and went everywhere from, you know, Petawawa to in the north to Perth in the west, Kentville in the south, Limoges in the east, Hawkesbury, everywhere. But you also have to keep in mind is that there's just no listings in general. So it's kind of scattered all over the place. But yeah, people have definitely been going further out from the city, just predominantly because of the prices. They'd rather compete at a lower price point than say, hey, we're approved for 500,000. We're going to end up going to the very top of that pre-approval in the city. Why don't we just go further out and, you know, save ourselves a little bit of money so you're not essentially house poor. House poor essentially means that if you go to a bank or a mortgage broker and they say, okay, we will give you a mortgage for 600,000. House poor means that you are basically buying something at the very, very, very top of what you're allowed to buy. So if they say, okay, you're good up to 600,000, you'd be buying a house for 600,000 or maybe even a little bit more. So you're basically maxing out your total pre-approval, which in theory, and the reason why they call it house poor is because you're spending all of your money on your mortgage payments as opposed to other expenses that you have because you have that obligation to pay for it.
You did talk a little bit about condos kind of like disappearing from the market, but who is buying more? Who's buying condos? Who are more interested in townhouses and homes?
So if we were going to look back at, you know, the last year, because that's probably what everyone's really interested about, COVID and the real estate market and stuff like that. At the start of COVID, we didn't really see too much happening across the board. To be completely honest with you, I still remember the day that Ottawa had its first confirmed case. And I was actually in the middle of negotiating a deal with a client. And I know that the general sentiment with people was that they didn't know what was going to happen because it was just too early to tell. So we didn't see really anything change for a couple of weeks. I think the only kind of confusion amongst real estate professionals was whether or not we'd be considered essential workers or not.
Yeah.
So once we found out that we were essential, we could continue working. It was basically, I mean, I hate to say it, but, you know, back to normal, essentially. You know, we had to wear masks and gloves and stuff like that, but we were back out there showing homes. Now, I think, and again, I can only speak for myself, but what I've also seen looking at the market within the last, I want to say about 6 months, once people realized that this was going to be a little bit longer than a couple of months, because I still remember, you know, the provincial government, we have to flatten the curve and all that stuff. I mean, you don't hear about it so much now, especially with the advent of the vaccines coming out. But a lot of people realized that because it was going to be so long, that they didn't want to be in smaller spaces. So for example, I would say probably anywhere from 70 to 80% of my buyer clients that I have been professional couples that have lived in smaller condos. And, you know, you can only, you know, we all love our partners, but when you're next to them for so long and you can't leave and you're both working, it can get really tough, right? And that's what I hear from all of them. It's like, you know what, we just need more space because we can't be working on top of each other like this. So what ended up happening was that after people got a little bit fed up with that, they decided to sell their condos. So we saw a pretty big influx of condos hit the market about 6 months ago, give or take. And it was a great opportunity for investors because there was just, you know, if it was the only market segment in the entire city, everywhere you looked, where you could put an offer on a house and not have to like rush. You could put a financing condition, a home inspection, all those things, and you could negotiate down the price.
Yeah.
I know with you guys, that was basically the complete polar opposite of what you guys dealt with. So it was an opportunity for people who had some money laying around to go and buy these condos. Now, that's kind of come and gone, and that opportunity has since left. But I saw a lot of investors buying up condos. And then basically when it comes to people buying, townhomes or detached properties, again, only in my experience, it tends to be, younger professionals or people downsizing for the most part. I don't have too many, like international investors, those are few and far between. Most of my clients, work in the tech sector, or they're public servants and they work for the government, and they're just looking for a home, really.
Mm-hmm. And just one quick question here, just because I'm curious. So the sellers, let's say home sellers, do they mostly upgrade or move elsewhere, move into a condo?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty healthy mix of all of it, actually. I mean, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Some people want to downsize, but they enjoy being in the city. Some people want to upgrade their homes, but as I alluded to earlier, it's a little bit tough to upgrade when you stay where you are. So some of them are moving further away. Some are moving as far away as another country or another province. It's a kind of a hodgepodge of everything, basically. Some are downsizing, some are upgrading further away and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And if you're talking just a little bit about myself being an immigrant, and do you see immigrants coming to this city and buying property?
Yeah, I do. And I know we had alluded to before when we were trying to set up the call about talking about like financing for people who are coming in and stuff like that. So I predominantly have, when people are coming from overseas, they're usually permanent residents of Canada already. So that can actually be of benefit to people when they're looking to secure financing, as opposed to just being a non-resident.
Yeah.
For example, if you're a permanent resident, basically, and you have to take this with a grain of salt, and I'm not a mortgage broker, so I would definitely advise people to consult a mortgage advisor. But as a general rule of thumb, if you were a permanent resident of Canada and you have a full-time job already lined up, you can basically apply for a mortgage. That's it, that's all. The only kind of caveat to that is most of the time, your money that you use for the down payment of the property would have to be in Canada for at least 90 days prior to you actually putting that down payment down. Mm-hmm. Like I said, take it with a grain of salt. It can change depending on which country they're coming from, because some banks have, I don't want to say they've blacklisted other countries, but they have, pretty stringent requirements when it comes from certain countries. I don't think Hungary's on that list, but I get a lot of, like Middle Eastern countries or Russia or stuff like that. But if you're a non-resident of Canada, so if you are not a permanent resident or a citizen, basically how that works is that you need to have at least 35% of the purchase price in cash ready to go as a down payment, on top of having to have at least a year's worth of mortgage payments in the bank.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does make a pretty significant difference if you're a non-resident. So, again, that it's predominantly ideal with permanent residents who have already been situated in Canada and have bank accounts.
It's really great that you touched on that, because I have had questions about Hungarians investing in Canada in general. Like, how does that work, and can I do it? Yeah.
That's basically, that would be your kind of baseline, information to see which avenue they can pursue. But again, your best bet is always going to be to speak to, either a financial institution here in Canada or a mortgage broker, because they'll be able to look at you on a case-by-case basis. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to financing, especially when you're coming from abroad. So it's always best to get another opinion as well and ask them.
Yeah, that's very important. That's what I always say, even about immigration. There's no generic answer that fits everyone, and no, one way to do some things. Definitely not, and it's not even a good idea. It's not like even a single diet doesn't fit
Yeah,
everyone, right? So
exactly, exactly.
what works for me doesn't work for someone else, or may not work for someone else. So you did mention a few things, but what would you say statistically the properties bought in the past couple of years are mostly purchased by first-time homeowners, or what is the statistics?
So again, I can only speak with my experience, but I would say probably about 75% of my clients who are buying are first-time home buyers. And then the rest of them are either, on their second or third house at that point. But I deal predominantly with first-time home buyers. So that's a majority of my business. But even now, I think if you were to, ask most people, it's either going to be a mix of first-time home buyers or people who have just bought, and because of the appreciation rate that we're seeing properties have, especially over the last year, are refinancing their homes and they're buying another property.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into a whole, theoretical discussion about what's going to happen when interest rates go up with people who are over leveraged. That's obviously a topic for another day, but it's pretty interesting when you get into it, because I hear there's a lot of people who are doing that. They're refinancing, they're buying one house or two houses or three houses, and that's all fine and dandy when interest rates are low. But what happens when they go up? So
Yeah, it's a lot of risks taken.
exactly.
Okay, so we did talk about condos, townhouses, homes, and then before we started the whole journey, we did think about all of these options. And by the time we started talking, we were mostly thinking about primarily a home, detached home, and maybe a townhouse.
Yep.
So what would you say is you did mention a couple of things, but percentage wise, what sells most in the market now? Homes?
Boy, I would say it's definitely going to be freehold properties to start. So what freehold means is it's different from a condo. So a condo, you are paying every month a condo fee, that goes towards, hydro and maintenance of the building and stuff like that. Freehold properties are exactly the polar opposites. You're not paying anything. So it's definitely freehold properties. But in my experience, especially with first-time home buyers, is that I would say most of the time, people are more interested in a townhome. The reason being is, in some cases, it could be cheaper than a detached property, but we've actually seen townhomes sell for more than detached properties. But the primary reason is just the amount of space. It tends to be the perfect amount of space, because they're young professionals or they're thinking of starting a family. So a 1,600 square foot townhome, maybe a little bit smaller than that, maybe 1,400 square feet with 3 bedrooms, a finished basement, all that stuff. That's enough space for a couple of people, and it's more of a maintenance issue as well. I've lived in a townhome, and it was basically me taking care of the townhome and just by myself. It was a lot of work. So I couldn't imagine what it's like for a fully detached property to have to maintain that all the time. And that's some of the feedback that I get from most of my clients. It's more of a maintenance issue as well as it's the perfect amount of space.
Yeah, we're just learning that. We're learning
Yeah.
that. Going from we are definitely not buying a snowblower to maybe.
Probably need it. After you go outside when it's -30 and you're shoveling for a couple of hours, you start to think to yourself, you know what, there's probably an easier way to do it, that doesn't involve me being sore for a couple of days after. So yeah, I don't blame you. I always tell people, like last week, it was pretty warm outside to the point where everyone had their windows down and they're in t-shirts. I mean, me included. I'm guilty as charged. I was wearing t-shirts outside. I even thought about wearing shorts. And then, of course, the last couple of days, it's been pretty cold. I like to think last week was our first fake spring. And we usually get that a couple times, especially in Ottawa. We usually get that, at least 2 or 3 times before there's absolutely no more snow. And then we go into spring. And last year we saw that until, I think it was mid-April that we kept getting snow. And it was just hot one day, cold the next, and it kept doing that for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of this part of Canada. I always get I have some viewers who always ask, like, why don't you guys move to BC? Why don't you guys move to BC? Because of the weather.
Absolutely. I have a good friend of mine that just moved out there, and their idea of a bad weather day is it rains for 20 minutes. It's the same in Budapest though. I mean, like when you're there, sometimes it rains for a bit and then it just kind of vanishes for a while. But here it's always cold. I still wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it's pretty cold here.
I did mention at the beginning, being the expert now, that Ottawa is becoming very, very hot as a market. So what are the reasons? Okay, it's the nation's capital, that. What are the other reasons why it's so cold?
So I think there's probably 2 main reasons. First and foremost, like I alluded to earlier, I think that the Ottawa real estate market was undervalued for a very, very long time. If you were to put us up against, any other major city in Canada, it wasn't even close, right? But you also have to take certain things into consideration. If you go to Vancouver is a huge hub for international business. It's not a government city. It's all run basically by big business. Same thing for Toronto. Ottawa was always considered the sleepy government town. And for that reason, I don't think many people were looking at it for, an opportunity to get cheap real estate. It just wasn't on the radar. So, when COVID started happening, but even long before that, when people were getting priced out of these other, real estate markets, whether it's Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, stuff like that, they started looking elsewhere for other opportunities. And, when you factor in the seller's market, increasing property value, in relatively cheap housing, it depends who you ask, right? If people from Ottawa, if you ask them, do you think housing is cheap? They'll say no. If you ask people coming from Toronto, they'll laugh and say, oh, $700,000 for a townhouse, that's a steal. So I think there's that, coupled with also our tech sector in Ottawa is growing exponentially. So there's kind of like a running joke that in Canada, which is in the west end of the city, there's a tech park essentially, and they like to call it the Silicon Valley of the North. So we've had a huge influx of these tech companies hiring people and stuff like that. And most of them are quite successful. So I think with people, who are with these companies, they're making salaries that are a lot more than what a public servant is making. So with that new money coming in from these tech companies, I think that also plays a factor in why it's become so popular, because these people are buying properties. I personally have had, I want to say probably 4 clients that have worked at Shopify, and it's, they're some of the first employees that work there, and they get stock options, stuff like that, where, they're not necessarily buying a house with their salaries. They're cashing out on some of the stocks that they own, and then boom, they have the money to buy a house just like that. So I think, again, just to kind of give it a brief overview, the market was always considered tired. I wouldn't call it depressed, but it wasn't anything exciting to people. But then when people started realizing that it maybe didn't make sense to buy investment properties in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or stuff like that, they started looking, somewhere that has a pretty high employment rate, especially with the federal government, because if you're with the Fed, your job security is pretty much guaranteed unless you're on a contract and you do something bad. But we're the biggest employer is the federal government for the most part too. And the federal government isn't going anywhere. So when COVID had all these layoffs and companies had to downsize and stuff like that, a lot of these bigger cities, I think, and this is just, I'm just speaking theoretically, but I think a lot of these places suffered, their real estate prices suffered because of it. So people said, well, we need to look somewhere with stable employment, and we're better else than the capital of the country, right? And then factor that in with the big tech companies here in Ottawa, and then it's a pretty perfect storm for the prices to go up.
And they are.
Yeah.
And they are. Yeah. I just started seeing the sale signs popping up here around us.
Yeah.
Some of the houses, one house in our street, next street, got on the market this week. So yeah.
I'll have to keep an eye on those. I'd be surprised to see what they sell for. It's pretty crazy to see, where I have clients who bought a house last year, like, at the start or the kind of the middle of the pandemic, and then seeing what the houses are selling for now. It's almost like, oh my God, that story I was telling you about, that client I had who was buying a property the day we had our first confirmed case.
Yeah.
He paid, I think he paid, it was about $730,000 for this house. It was a detached property in Barrhaven. And I think it was 2 or 3 months later, the next door house went up for sale. The exact same house. It was just a different color. It was the same floor plan, same everything. That house sold for $100,000 more than what he paid for it just a couple months after. It was astounding. It was astounding because at the time he was a little bit nervous. Understandably so. It was the first day we had a case of COVID. He didn't know where the market was going to go. And then sure enough, fast forward to now, and it's quite a stark contrast in between what he paid and what people are paying now.
Right. Yeah. That was this, we even saw that kind of like momentary pause or hesitation.
Yep.
There was a property we were looking at before we chose, or before we bought this house. I think it was 2 months prior to finding this, and that's the exact same floor plan, so same model, and that sold for much less because it was just in that moment when people are kind of like hunkering down, not making decisions.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, it's different because if you're just an outsider, someone casually following the Ottawa real estate market, you're not really plugged in, say like a real estate agent is. So I could see that happening where, as news came out about COVID and people are worried and, we're shutting down and all of these things, you could see it in the day-to-day stats that, okay, well, all the houses today after this news came out, they're only selling maybe a couple thousand over asking, or they're selling with conditions, or they're selling below. And then, as things started to open up, then you would progressively see it getting more and more competitive. So, it's almost, I don't want to say it's laughable, but it's just, I kind of chuckle to myself when people say, well, we're waiting for there to be a slowdown in the market, and just these opportunities come and go so quick. To your point, that kind of lull in the market that only lasted maybe a week, maybe, and for the condos, that dip in the condos where no one wanted to buy them and there's an opportunity for investors, that only lasted about a month. And then all the good properties got snatched up, and it's just, these trends are very transient and they move very quickly. So if there's one thing that I could stress to anyone listening to this is, the name of the game, at least when you're first starting, is making sure that you're at least quick to go and look at a property. You don't want to obviously rush anything, but going in there as soon as possible and giving yourself time to look at everything is your best bet to make sure that you're making the best decision. Because if you rush in, you might miss out on another opportunity, and you don't want to buy a house just for the sake of buying something and missing out, because there's always going to be another opportunity with real estate. There always is.
Yeah, we see similar things happening in Hungary. It's a whole different story, but I was just thinking about that, the waiting, like kind of waiting for things to change. And I mean, the prices to drop, to go down, and that hasn't been happening. Like it's
Really,
Hungary is.
have you found? Because I know in Budapest, it's predominantly flats, like it's predominantly apartments that you see. Have those prices gone down at all during this? Like, would you be able to compare? So it's not the same like here, where people don't want to live in like apartment buildings or something like that.
I wasn't following very closely, but I would say I don't think they ever went down. What did go, maybe there was just a bit of a pause in general, but what did go down was rent. Like rent prices significantly went down. But I think most people just took the property off the market because they didn't want to sell for less. And now I just see, I saw some of my friends selling their condos, and the last time I looked at those particular types of condo prices was a while ago, and I literally, like, my jaw dropped. Literally, like, is this really happening? Like, just the prices. So yeah, it's pretty hot there too. But the idea of like bidding on a house is still not. I don't think it's really well known in Hungary. Where I first started talking to my family about how things go here, it took them a while to actually believe that this is the way. Like in Hungary in general, it was always like this is what you want to get, so you're going to, this is what you want to get, and you ask for way more, like 15% more, so you can get the price that you're.
Yeah, of course. I know buying real estate's a little bit different in Hungary. I mean, I think the last time I went, I don't know if I told you and Nitin this, but I was wanted to buy something like around Balaton. I wasn't sure where. I just wanted something close to the water. And I had arranged, it took me months to find an English speaking real estate agent. And I'd flown there basically with the express purpose of purchasing a property. And then the guy just never answered me. I was a little upset that I couldn't buy anything, but the prices, at least, it's funny because, we're using people coming from Toronto and coming to Ottawa and saying it's cheap. When I was there looking at what you could get, it was for me, it was relatively, well priced.
Yeah.
The market there is completely different, but I can understand that it's a little bit different to buy there.
I got a couple of questions about neighborhoods in Ottawa in general. I never really had the chance to drive around and do very nice videos because of the pandemic, and then I want to do it in the summer. It might happen, but what are the hottest neighborhoods? And yeah, just tell us some of it.
Sure. So I obviously want to preface this answer with, right now in a market as hot as the one that we're in, they're all popular because there's just no inventory. But if we were to go back in time to before all of this happened, you really have, maybe a handful or less of places that were really kind of interesting to people. So for any of your viewers who aren't familiar with Ottawa, you basically have, 3 to 4, depending on who you ask, suburbs of the city. In the West End, you have Canada. In the South, you have Barrhaven / Riverside South. And then you have Orleans, which is in the East End. Orleans is predominantly French. Canada was always really the more popular area because we had a large, the Department of National Defense moved its headquarters out to the West End. So because they're such a huge employer, there was just, as soon as they announced that, everyone wanted to move to Canada. Riverside South and Barrhaven is probably the newest of these suburbs, the one that has the most development going on. And it was built because there wasn't really a lot going on out there. But, again, the properties tend to be the newest, a little bit further from the city, and the traffic can be a little bit difficult to navigate. And then you have Orleans, out of those 3, it's definitely the oldest. And like I said, it's predominantly French in Orleans. It's actually, it gets more and more French the more east you go because you're getting closer to Quebec. And the houses tend to be smaller and stuff like that. But I mean, in my experience with my clients, they're actually now opting to go to the East End because it is cheaper. Now, you would be giving up a little bit of space because, like I said, the homes are smaller usually, but it's within their budget. So people are trying to step away from essentially being house poor to giving themselves some sort of buffer where they actually can be happy with, okay, maybe we paid 100,000 over asking, but it's still well within our budget. So I'm having more people kind of go that way. Now, if you were to look a little bit further outside, if you're going, like to the outskirts of Ottawa, to Arnprior, to Renfrew, Carleton Place, all of these places, we've seen development in most of these places, but because they're further and they're cheaper, the competition is just as fierce out there as it is in the city. So, like I said, when I preface this answer, is that right now it's popular everywhere, just because by the very virtue of the market we're in, there's nothing available. So people will take what they can get. But if you had to pick 3 of the top places in the city, at least from a suburbs perspective, it would always be Canada, Barrhaven, or Orleans. And if you wanted to get into, like the more fancy areas of the city, you'd be looking in places such as Westboro, which is kind of in the West End. You'd have the Glebe, which is almost the closest to the city core. It has a lot of older homes, like century homes built 100 years ago. And then you have places such as Rockcliffe Park, which is where the Prime Minister lives, like big old houses and, a lot of diplomats and stuff like that. But those price points are astronomical compared to the suburbs, right? You're paying, quadruple what you'd pay there than you would in like Canada or Orleans.
Yeah, when we first arrived and we were kind of driving through the neighborhoods, and obviously me knowing nothing, had never been to Ottawa before, saying that, driving through Rockcliffe Park, saying, yeah, I like this.
Yeah, and that one's going to cost you $4 million. That one's $3.5 million. That one's this. That one's that. It's pretty crazy. I've even had clients who have looked in Rockcliffe Park, and what you'll notice just looking in that area, there isn't a lot of newer homes in Rockcliffe Park. They tend to be older, and you're really buying the location and the land. You're not necessarily buying the house, because more often than not, when you go in a home in Rockcliffe Park, they tend to be pretty dated. Like you go in with the expectation of spending, a couple $100,000 to renovate things, if not more, to bring it up to kind of modern tastes.
Yeah.
But yeah, those, and the same thing with the Glebe too. But yeah, they're very, very expensive neighborhoods. But I think everyone in some way or another kind of aspires to own a property there one day. That's kind of like the top end of owning real estate in Ottawa.
Yeah, well, something to aspire to. Yeah, but it was just funny how we drove through it, and I was thinking, yeah, I like this.
Yeah. Well, you're close to the river and you can walk everywhere, and it's, everyone's super friendly, and, it's just a very charming area to be in. It's not like you're downtown, like surrounded by tall office buildings. Like, it's quiet. It's just like aesthetically, it's a beautiful area to be in, like and there's the schooling too. A lot of Ottawa's private schools like Ashbury College and Elmwood and stuff, those are all in that area.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. It was
Chilla,
a lot of fun to talk to you. So,
it was my absolute pleasure. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like our videos.